Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and this is the first garden tour of the year, brought to you by my sponsor, Vessi Seeds. Almost all the seeds in my garden each year are provided by Vessi Seeds. I've been very happy with my results. If you want to help support the channel, the YouTube channel, or my audio podcast, MaritimeGardening.com, where you can download all my podcasts in audio form, stick them on a thumb drive, listen to on your way to work. If you need something that Vessi Seeds sells, go to their website, vessis.com, and buy it from them using my coupon code GAVS20, and that'll help support everything I'm doing here. The camera that's filming this, basically paid for by them. All the audio equipment, everything I'm trying out here. I have no real background in audio, visual, that sort of thing. It's a learning process, and I'm buying gear as I go, and it's so good to have a sponsor that sort of helps me out with that sort of thing. So if you like this channel, you like everything I'm doing, you want to help support it, and they sell something you need, go there, GAVS20, to get free shipping on your order this year. Check out the description box of this video for the details on that, the details on the coupon code. Also, a quick shout out to Whiffletree Farms. I think their website's Whiffletree Farms and Nursery. They provided some partridge berries. I think that a lot of people call them lingonberries. So it's a small sort of cranberry-like berry that makes an absolutely delicious jam, also like sauce for your Swedish meatballs and that sort of thing. Anyway, there's a store I used to buy that stuff from here, and they went into business, so I got no source of partridge berries. So I decided, why not grow my own? I called them up, and they're just going to give me some. Isn't that great? So I'm very grateful to them, and if you need any sort of bush berry or different kind of fruit trees, they're a wide selection of things like that. Check out their website. They have a catalog, online catalog, and they seem like really nice people, so check that out. They're in Ontario, Canada. They probably can't ship to the States, but if you're in Canada, probably a good place. I imagine a lot of garden centers probably buy their nursery plants from that provider. So that's the source. Anyway, it's a garden tour, so what are we waiting for? It's April 5th, 2020. And I got some things started and a lot of big plans and a lot of things underway. So, nothing's perfect here in the garden. I sort of like to just show things as they're evolving. I would have liked to have waited another week before filming this, because I got a lot of things 80% done. But this is where I am, and I mean that's gardening, right? You just chip away at things when you got the time, and when your body tells you to rest, you rest, and you just work on it and stay at it, right? So let's go. Okay, so here we are, and as always, we begin at the beginning. I got my hugelkultur beds. There's 4 of them out here outside the garden enclosure. The things I plant here, they're sort of deer and rabbit-proof things, like squash and tomatoes and potatoes and stuff like that. So, yeah, nothing going on out here. It's way too early for any of that. Moving into the garden. Trying a new camera out here, new system here, so hopefully the audio is okay. Hopefully it's not too shaky. These are some parts from the cold frame. I dismantled those and really sort of reorganized the garden fairly, well, not super dramatically, but done a lot of work the last few weeks. So I had a lot of time on my hands, as I imagine a lot of people do these days. So I've been putting all that time and energy into the garden. So yeah, this is the top off one of my cold frames. I just stuck it here for now. I might sort of use this as a sort of hot spot and then take this thing off later on. But that's one of the lids there too. I got some carrots started here in this bed, and next to the carrots I've got salsify planted. The directions on the seed pack said to put some plastic and stuff over the soil to help aid germination, so I've done that. I mean, it's still quite cold. This morning I came out first thing in the morning. It was around 0 Celsius out here, right around freezing, right? Hovering around freezing. It's a nice sunny day. It's going to get nice and warm, and certainly under this plastic it's going to be a good deal warmer than that. So yeah, that's going on. Nothing planted in this bed here yet. But let's just continue down the center of the garden, I guess. I got this bed here has got strawberries. This bed and this one were mulched heavily with spruce boughs over the winter. They thawed out quickly. Just about every bed here is thawed or almost completely thawed. Certainly all the beds at grade are completely thawed right now. Some of the sort of more raised beds, most raised beds might only be 8 inches above grade sort of thing, the actual soil level. They were a bit behind the ones at grade, in thawing out, but they're pretty much everything is thawed out now, which for here, that's relatively early. Seems like spring has come a bit early here. So now, mind you, we just had like 2 days of intense rain and wind, and that does tend to help thaw things out. So anyway, strawberries are definitely, they've started. I mean, you see here, this, iris is starting to emerge, right? And the strawberries in this bed are beginning. Here you can see some. They got no problem with these spruce boughs. Like, there's one right there, right? That's new growth. Just the last, I don't know, maybe a number of days ago, I had about 2 or 3 times as much spruce boughs on here. So when I noticed the soil thawed, I took it down considerably. I just sort of left the branch tips out here, and I'm going to try using that as a mulch as opposed to straw for this season. I think it'll be fine. People are going to say, doesn't that acidify the soil? No, it doesn't. That's the short answer. I've talked about this in lots of my videos, so I'm not going to get into it here. Lots of garden bloggers say that it does, but they haven't really read any work by, university extensions, actual scientists who study this sort of thing. It does not acidify the soil in any meaningful way. You can go ahead and use that stuff as a mulch. It's fine. And hopefully in a month or so you'll see, well, June. These are what's it called? Day neutral strawberries. So you get sort of a June, maybe late June, early July yield. Then you get strawberries intermittently all summer long, just in small amounts. And then you get your biggest yield in like late September. So it's a great variety for the home gardener, where you're not necessarily trying to, sell strawberries. Because I don't think these yield up as much per acre or whatever. But as a home gardener, you just want sort of like a steady supply, right? So it's great because for me, I really don't get any tomatoes till like August. So you want to have something sweet in your salad. And for me, because these sort of keep giving all summer long, unless it gets really hot for an extended amount of time, you get to put the strawberries in your salad. This bed's going to be beans and corn this year, so nothing going on. It's way too early to plant something like that. This bed has garlic planted last fall, and the garlic is just starting to emerge. If you look really closely, am I lying? No, there's one right there. Right, there's garlic. So it's just starting to emerge. There's a couple tips showing here or there, and we look over here. Right, there's a tip. Sorry if this camera works a bit shaky. Another tip right there. Right, so I mean the garlic's just starting. And I like to do these garden tour videos because you can compare notes and compare where your garden is, and get a sense of, not like in a competition sort of way, but just to get a sense of where things are in terms of the season, right? Here I planted some peas, a little more than a week ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, and I just planted them down the middle, and some of the soil was actually frozen underneath the peas. So maybe the top 2 inches was thawed, and then it was frozen from there down. And I've done this trick before, and it seems to work. It doesn't matter, just stick the peas in. The soil will thaw out on its own, the peas will get by just fine. So let's take a peek here. And hopefully, we can find, try not to mess things up too badly here. And there's a pea. And you can see that the radicle, the root has begun to emerge. So, yeah. Things are starting. Actually, this soil is, even though it's cold outside right now, it's probably around 5°C right now. This soil is warm to the touch, and that's why things are starting to happen here. We had a wicked windstorm here a few days ago. You can see here, look over here. I just noticed that these 2 trees just came down. It was just a couple days ago. Wicked rainstorm. So there's some more wood for whatever I need it for, because those trees are done. This is another strawberry garden here, and these are coming along fine. This is the The Sweet 16 whip I got from Vessi Seeds last year. It's more than doubled in size. It's coming along great. This thing tipped right over in Hurricane Dorian. I sort of propped it back up and it seems to have survived. We'll see how it does this year. I'm sure it didn't like being, tipped over and disturbed like that in the fall. Over here we got a little bit more strawberry garden. Actually, this is asparagus. Asparagus isn't emerging yet, I don't think. No, it's a bit early for that. Another few weeks before the asparagus will show up. Just on their strawberry garden here, we got yeah, definitely some more new growth here with the strawberries. I love planting strawberries at the base of apple tree like that. So that's what I got going on here. This is the what's this one called? This is kind of like a celery plant. Lovage, it's called. Lovage is, you can see a little bit of a nubbin right there. So it's just starting to wake up. The lovage tends to come in around the same time as rhubarb. Yeah, like it's a plant. It's a perennial. It's basically a kind of celery, and I don't find celery grows really well here. I've tried numerous years to grow celery here. I don't have good luck with it. So then I discovered lovage. It's basically a perpetual celery plant. So the hell with growing celery. This grows about 6 feet high. So you get all the celery. I mean, it doesn't make celery sticks for like eating with peanut butter and cheese whiz and stuff like that. It's more leaves. But I mean, if you want the celery flavor, celery isn't really a food. You can't live off of celery. There's no real calories there. It's the flavor. It's an aromatic, right? It's one of those key things you add to a food to give impart a flavor, soup or whatever. So this definitely fills the bill. One of these plants, if they sell lovage at the garden center near you as a transplant, spend the $3, stick it in the ground. That's all the plant you'll ever need. You'll have celery all summer long. And the seeds actually. It seems to be a bit damp when the seeds come on here, but if you can save the seeds, they're fennel-like in quality in terms of that slight licorice sort of flavor, and be good for making sausages and things like that, or whatever you use fennel for. Over here on this side of the garden, I got nothing planted. I can't really remember what I have in my garden, but I'm going to do we got a stretch of about 5 days with some sun, so I'm going to be doing a lot of planting for things that can be planted this time of year. Hardy greens basically. So nothing planted here yet. This dome has lettuce and spinach and a kind of sorrel planted underneath it. These haven't germinated. I just planted those a couple days ago. This bed is garlic, and all around the edge I planted some baby Egyptian walking onions. I think I was checking the other day, see if any of them made it through the winter. There's one right there. I don't know how obvious that is. You see that shoot there? Yeah, so they made it. They definitely made it. So I got a bed full of garlic, and around the perimeter I got these Egyptian walking onions. We'll see what they amount to. This I just planted last night. This is a bed of carrots. Put these plastic things over to warm the soil up and get things germinated. We have a good week of sunny days. These carrots will be germinated in a week. This bed's going to have cucumbers in it, so it's way too early for anything like that right now. So I'm just using this as a place to throw mulch, give the worms there something to feed. This bed has spinach and lettuce, I believe. Yeah, spinach and lettuce. So the spinach, right, that's spinach right there in the center of the screen, right, and the lettuce, that's lettuce right there. Right, they have emerged, they have germinated. I got these larger plants is parsnips that I didn't pick this was a parsnip garden last year, so that's parsnips I didn't notice when I was picking, I guess. So anyway, yeah. Doesn't look like much, but in a week or so, this will be really hopping. Now, this garden's eventually going to be a eggplant garden, but that's not going to be for like a couple months. Way too early for anything like that. So I thought I grow some fast-growing greens in here to use the space in the meantime. We'll see how that works. Maybe there's enough time for that. We'll just see how it goes. Over here I got a bed of, I got kale down the middle and spinach on either side. Boy, you can feel the heat coming off of this. Anyway, right center of your screen there, that's a kale plant. Looks like a 4-leaf clover. They're growing, and the spinach is over here. That's spinach there. So it's got those sort of long first leaves like that. I can't remember what I planted on this side of the garden, but I guess a kind of lettuce. You can see a bit of it there. Edox lettuce, maybe. Anyway, they're coming in, but not so. Yeah, they're definitely coming in. So I mean, things are happening here for sure. It looks very small, but you can see really closely that's lettuce. Those leaves in there. Get the grass out of the way. I just killed one of them. Darn it! There, right there. That's lettuce right there. Over here, this is our lettuce garden. My wife's a big fan of lettuce, so I sowed some lettuce here. I believe they have germinated, some of them anyway. Oops, whoa! Maybe not. Yeah, I think this, so I mean, it's very tiny, but that's germination there. And it could be a weed, but I mean, basically, you know, things are germinating in this bed. Here, this is some sort of green. See how they're uniform? They're all the same. That looks like a spinach to me. And maybe I planted lettuce and spinach in here. I can't remember. And I didn't, you know, normally I have like some sort of mulch delineating where things aren't growing and where things are. I didn't do that here, so be another couple weeks before I know what I did in here. I can't remember. This bed here, I planted beets yesterday, so nothing happening here yet. You know, generally speaking, it's a bit early. That noise over there is my kids. They're just playing. Sorry about that. It's a bit early for planting beets, generally speaking. But if you can put something like this, beets like a warm, they have a relatively, they prefer a warm temperature for germinating. So it's a tough one to grow because, you know, it's hard to get them to germinate this time of year. And if you plant them later in the year, they still like relatively cool conditions, so it can be a challenge for some people to grow. My secret, because I always tend to have a good crop of beans, is to plant them under a dome, like 1st of April sort of thing, end of March, and keep the dome on them until end of May, basically, because they don't like frost either. I mean, they're sort of, yeah, they don't like the frost, but they will germinate. In a situation like this, they'll germinate and they'll grow really well. So that's my trick for getting beets to go. This is garlic. They're just barely starting to emerge here. Nothing planted here, and I don't know what I'm doing with these beds. Now, way over here, for those that are familiar with my garden channel and have been watching year after year, I had a row of I had cold frames here. And I've used them in various ways over the years, and I've never been overly impressed with how they work. Now, bearing in mind, maybe I didn't design mine very well, but I just didn't like having them. I gotta tell you the truth, I didn't like, they're small, they're not very versatile, you're kind of limited in what you can grow in them from year to year. I can see a place for them in a garden, but really, I find having domes like this, I mean, basically any bed I want to be a cold frame any year, I can turn into a cold frame. I prefer the versatility of using little microclimates like that. And maybe that doesn't work for every property, I totally get that. But yeah, I've got, for the wood the cold frames were 2 feet by 6 feet. And for the amount of wood that made up those cold frames, now I've got these almost like 5 by 6 beds, This was just built from that cold frame wood. I got some cold frame wood left over here. Just if you're new to the channel, just so you can get a sense of the dimension. This was one of the one of the tiers of a cold frame. This was the dimension of the cold frame. I put this one down here. I had some lovely blackberry bushes growing along the edge of the fence. There was a fence right here, all the way down here, right? There was a fence. So I pulled those out rather violently and stuck them in the ground over here. And hopefully they live. I'm probably not going to get much out of them this year, but as long as they live, that'll be fine. I also had some of these Egyptian walking onions growing here, so I got to move these today. There's one right there. It's coming in really strong. Yeah, I guess I missed those when I was. I moved a bunch of them last year, but I guess I missed some of them because these ones coming in good. Anyway, so that's what I did with the cold frames, and I'm actually going to keep some of the cold frame assembly, the tops, and use them on these beds, on at least one of them, in a sort of basically turn any one of these beds I want back into a cold frame whenever I want. So I like that versatility and the functionality of all that. So yeah, I removed the fence, and I sort of stretched it around the area of the garden that was outside the enclosure. Is now enclosed. I bought 50 new feet of fence, 50 feet more of fence, and it just fit. So basically I added, a good amount of space, and I made some more posts just from trees around the property and drove them in, and I filmed all of that. If you haven't watched it, if you're into that sort of thing, you can watch that. But now the garden space is complete. I can say with 99.9% confidence, I am not making this garden any bigger. I think I've reached, last year I had all the potatoes. We're still eating last year's potatoes, so I know how much potatoes I need to grow now, and I got the space to do it. We just ran out of last year's garlic. We eat garlic all the time, almost on a daily basis. We use garlic, and we just ran out. Just ran out now, 1st of April. That's not bad. So I just need to plant, and I know how much garlic I planted last year, and so I know basically I have a crude sense of how much I need to plant now. So next fall, I'll probably do another video on planting garlic and speaking to those considerations. If you didn't plant garlic last fall, don't bother trying to plant it right now. You're not going to have very good success, would be my advice. At least hardneck garlic, kind I grow. You're going to be disappointed with your results. I would use that space in your garden for something that'll give you a good yield this time of year. And think about October and planting some garlic if you want garlic. That's when you want to do it. Anyway, not much else going on out here. This bed has garlic. They're starting to emerge. And that bed at the far corner has garlic. They're starting to emerge. I basically figured out that for every one of these vertical lines of beds, I need to have one bed dedicated to garlic every year. So I got that bed's garlic, this bed's garlic. Maybe one of these will be garlic next year. Too late for that. This one's garlic. Each bed has about 40 or 50 garlic in it. This bed's garlic, and this bed's garlic. That's the amount of garlic I need to have a steady supply all year, or thereabouts. We'll see how it goes. And if you watched my garlic planting video last fall, I spaced the garlic about 12 inches apart, basically rows going perpendicular to the length of the bed. And once the garlic are fully emerged, I'm going to plant onions in between the rows of garlic. I think they'll get along just fine. I think they'll be good neighbors. Basically because they won't block the sun from each other. So that's the way I'm going to work that into the rotation. This is garlic this year, and next year they're going to go downhill, and the next year it'll be down there, and the following year it'll be up here, and then it'll just go back down. Each of these lines we'll do that with our garlic to basically so it's on a 4-year rotation. One more thing, I got this is a rhubarb bed, because this time of year, I really do like to focus on perennials and show the stage of my perennials, because the closest thing to a overall, just in the same way your doctor might take your blood pressure and your pulse to see how healthy you are, looking at your perennials and whether they're emerging really gives you a sense of where your garden is. It's the ultimate thermometer for where your garden is, what stage it's at in its growing season. So these, there's literally no signs of life with this is supposed to be rhubarb. I don't see any of them poking up. I don't see anything happening here. The same with this, these grapes. There's no budding, really nothing's going on with these grapes, right? But I do have another spot where I have rhubarb, and they have started to emerge. Let me show you. This is right at the entrance of the garden. A slightly sunnier spot, and sort of south-facing. And you can see right here, the rhubarb are emerging, right? So if there's one sign of spring, I mean, seeing the robins show up is a sign of spring, but for a gardener, seeing the rhubarb start to poke out of the ground, that is spring. Yeah, so that's where we are right now. You know, there's some things growing. The soil is thawed. I think there's a couple bits of ice in the soil here and there, but it's mostly like 95% thawed, but still quite cold. So, you know, all these different sort of microclimates I'm creating certainly help to get things, you know, started and get things kick-started a little bit, and that's important when you have a short growing season. It looks a lot, you know, I'm standing here and all my walkways are sand, so it looks like I'm in a really hot place, like in the Caribbean or something like that, but this is just sand I had. You know, I bought the sand and put it in the pathways to keep the weeds down and make it sort of tick-proof. But yeah, it's cold. When I got finished walking around holding the camera and shooting all that stuff, I actually had to stop for 5 minutes to get the hands warm again. This hand went completely numb, just to give you a sense. If I wasn't shooting a video, I would have a toque on right now. It's I think when I walked out the door this morning, it was 0 Celsius, freezing. But it's sunny, so I mean, when you're in the sun, it doesn't feel as cold as the thermometer might suggest. But anyway, that's where we are, April 5th, 2020. Gardens, I think it's going to be, I mean, it's not a good year for a lot of people, and I know a lot of people are hurting right now. But from a gardening point of view, I think this might be a good year. And, you know, it's just nice to have a place, you know, in times like these when you're confined to your property, if you're lucky enough to have a lawn or a yard and that sort of thing. I know not everyone has that. But it's very therapeutic, I guess, to have a place to go and to keep yourself busy. It's productive time because the result is going to be food, right? And lots of people have been asking me to do videos on food security and, you know, preparation for food shortages and that sort of thing. I'm mulling over ideas. I mean, I really don't want to take. I don't want to do too many videos on that theme. But if enough people ask me, I will. I'll do a video on food security and that sort of thing. Just kind of, and all I can speak to is what I do, and what I do here isn't any different than what I normally do. Anyway, that's, you know, if you want me to talk about that, make a suggestion in the comments, and I'll think about it a little bit and think about how I can approach that subject that's useful for people. So anyway, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.